See a few more people trickling in. I'm not sure who's presenting. Can you let me know when your team is fully arrived?
Hey, Craig. I'll be presenting. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you again.
It looks there's a lot of people here. I think we're still... Eugene and Jackie, are you seeing everyone that we're expecting? I don't know if I see Edmonton Fire Rescue Services yet.
Yeah, everyone from the city team is here. Just, I don't know if we got confirmation from EFRS that they're going to be here, but I don't see them here yet.
Hey, Jacob. Oh, you're muted. I was memorizing tree species, and so I'm glad you're here. I will pass the landscape plan to you when we get to that point.
Sure, sounds good. Thanks.
Well, from the presenter side, we have everyone here. They're just maybe if one or two more from our project team. And Eugene and Jackie, I'll leave it up to you to decide when we should start.
Just give me 1 minute. I'll send Mitchell from EFRS a quick message. I think they were planning to join at 4:30.
Oh, there's Michael.
Okay, it looks like Mitchell's tied up, so we could probably take it off here if we want.
Excellent.
Well, all right. Well, okay, let's get going. Welcome to the Edmonton Design Committee for the Development Permit presentation of the Fire Hall 22 project. We would like to remind you that this is a public meeting. Sorry. We have all received and reviewed your submission package. Your team will have 10 minutes to present, and then we will go virtual roundtable of the committee members for questions. After the presentation, the committee will deliberate and respond to you in writing within 48 hours. I will now turn it over to you to introduce your team and project.
Thank you, Craig.
And you're welcome to share the screen. And
yeah, I think we're...
It's visible.
Sure. Are we introducing our full team? I'll start with myself. I'll pass it through the consultant team, and then we'll pass it over to the city. My name is Michael Revest. I'm an architect at HCMA. And Genevieve.
Hello, I'm Genevieve Sims. I am an architect at HCMA. Pass it on to Jonah.
Hi, I'm Jonah Kralowicz. I'm an intern architect at HCMA. And I'll pass it on to Jacob.
Hello, Jacob Tempen, landscape designer at O2 Planning and Design, assisting on the landscape architecture with HCMA. Thanks.
And Jackie?
I'm Jackie Dalzell. I'm the project manager for the city on this fire station project.
Oh, and Eugene Jennings, project architect with facility planning and design, and I think Carl is here also.
Yeah, Carl Boulanger. Nice to see everybody.
And then we do have representatives from Edmonton Fire Rescue Services as well, Mitchell and Michael.
Yeah, I'm Michael Oshozin, project manager with Edmonton Fire Rescue.
Yeah, Mitchell Burke, facility manager for FRS, and my supervisor, Chief Chang, I believe, just joined as well.
Excellent. Well, we are not a small group, but we're excited to get this presentation started. Eugene is just going to kick it off with a few words from the city.
Sure. So Fire Station 22 is a station rehab aimed at meeting or upgrading the station to meet our current functional program requirements, with key upgrades focusing on health, safety, and accessibility. Representing the city's infrastructure team are myself and Jackie, and Michael Revest from HCMA, who represents the consultant team. So I will pass it to Michael to present the work completed to date.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know if you're able to see it.
Yep, looks good.
Is it okay every time I think if I go full screen, I'm just going to share it like this, if that's okay. Is it legible to everyone?
Yeah, that works.
Excellent. I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. So our project site is located in Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of diverse First Nations, including the Nehio, the Dana, the Nakota Sioux, the Anishinaabe, and the Neisitate, and within the Métis homelands of the North Saskatchewan River Territory. These lands have long been places of gathering, ceremony, and community for many nations. We strive to continue the legacy of stewardship that has fostered this land since time immemorial. So we wanted to just pause for a second, and we typically always try to provide two submissions to EDC, the informal and formal. And in this case, due to the project scope, which I'll be explaining in more detail on the next slide, we were really focused so much on the interior of the building, aligning the rehab of Fire Station 22 with meeting Edmonton Fire Rescue Services' current functional program, that we didn't have that many options for the building addition that we're going to present to you. And so we made a decision as a project team to bypass the non-mandatory informal submission and proceed to this formal submission. We feel it was appropriate in this instance and just wanted to recognize that. So what is the project scope? Hopefully you were able to read it in the document that we sent in advance. But essentially, this 42-year-old fire station has got to the point where an upgrade is required, and a very significant upgrade. And the scope, as presented to us from the City of Edmonton and Edmonton Fire Rescue Services, is based into three categories. So the first one, the major one, is the rehab scope. So that's replacing all the mechanical and electrical systems. It's replacement of almost all finishes within the building, and you'll see we've moved walls to make the floor plan more functional and improve their emergency response times. It's also replacing all interior and exterior lighting, and there's a significant amount of exterior work, which is all windows, doors, and the replacement of the horizontal corrugated metal cladding that I'll show in another photo. That's the rehab scope. The growth scope has to do with making the facility meet the accessibility requirements as per the functional program. And that is making the main door accessibility, have an automatic operator, have the correct pull bars and handbars, and also put in a barrier-free washroom off of that front vestibule to align with the functional program and the city's access design guide. And then the final scope of work is the gear room and dormitory scope. And I might even just go to the next plan to help Actually, I'm going to go to the existing floor plan. So the dormitory scope is that 42 years ago, fire stations were designed in open dormitory, and the current functional requirements are having closed dorm rooms, individual dorm rooms. And then the gear room, in this Fire Hall 22, the duty gear is located along one of the apparatus bay walls, and that doesn't meet functional requirements. So our scope of work was to find a room so that there can be a dedicated duty gear room as per all new facilities. So just a quick look at where the project is. So the project is on 123rd Street, just north of Jasper in the neighborhood of Waquantawin. And the project has an empty lot to the south of it, which I think was probably presented to EDC years ago. There was a mixed-use residential tower proposed. There's a lane to the west. Mercury Block 2, I think it's called Cobalt Block, is to the north, which is a 7-story residential building. And then across the street there, it's single detached houses, low-rise projects. And we just provided some of the existing photos so you can understand the context. I'm going to continue my explanation of the floor plan. So I already explained the dormitory changes, the gendered bathrooms that were not equally distributed. There was 42 years ago an assumption that there was more male firefighters than females. So our scope of work included changing these to all gendered change rooms. The kitchen and lounge do not meet current size requirements. And the recreation training area is an adequate size, but not in an appropriate location. And we decided to put the duty gear room in this space. So moving to the proposed changes, you can see the duty gear room, and we added a workshop off the apparatus bay to make the apparatus bay function better. The fitness area that now has windows onto the outdoor amenity area that you'll see in the landscape plan. Enlarged kitchen and day rooms to meet functional requirements, a large locker room. And then one of the really important parts to this is just clear circulation so that there's efficient response times and direct lines of sight for firefighters leaving these core areas in the building and getting into the apparatus bay. And then the second story component is dormitories. So the individual dorm rooms and the captain dorm rooms. And this addition is placed on the northeast corner of the site. And so moving around the building, looking at the building elevations, this is the main elevation on the top of the screen, the east elevation. So you can see our building addition, 2-story addition on the north side of the site with the existing building to the south of it. And I'll go through the cladding materials in a second, but we are proposing fiber C panels on the building addition, as well as recladding the horizontal bands on the existing building. It was a material that we felt will be durable and last for decades for the fire station, and also align nicely with the existing brick. We have the north elevation on the bottom facing the Cobalt building. And then the south elevation on the top here, where this is facing the empty lot just off of Jasper. And then the west elevation where most of the firefighters park their personal vehicles. Here's a 3D view showing the building addition with the existing building, the single cladding being used on the addition and the horizontal bands, and a play of color to highlight the building addition. It was also, we presented a few options to Edmonton Fire Rescue Services, and they really liked having a punch of color, especially red, as a traditional firefighting color. So we did play with the red tones on the building addition side, whereas we had a bit more of a muted approach on the existing building to tie into the existing brown brick. One of the reasons we picked this Fiber C material was it comes in slightly different tones and textures, which we enjoyed on the facade because we really didn't have many options to play with the massing, as this was a floor plan exercise of trying to find the most efficient layout. And so playing with these different textures and tones gave a bit of variety on a pretty simple building massing. And here's just a close-up where you can see some of the 3 different textures and tones on the reds, as well as the 2 grays and 1 brown, and the browns tying into the brown brick. And I'll take us through this landscape and site plan, and then I'll ask Jacob to take us through the planting plan. And so starting at the northwest corner in the site, there is the firefighter private amenity area. So they have a covered area off of the kitchen where they can barbecue and hang out. We're still designing this, but the idea here is that they would have some privacy from the views to the north, because there is a 7-story residential building getting built there, and the firefighters need peace and quiet when they are in their outdoor amenity area. The existing shed that they use for their lawnmower and other outdoor supplies, the existing parking that they use for their passenger vehicles, as well as the existing waste enclosure, proposed planting on the south. The firefighters do use this area in the southeast corner for parking. The tarmac, which has to be maintained free of obstacles to ensure efficient response time. The main entry, where we're providing a bench and some bicycle parking, and then area to the northeast that's being landscaped with shrubs and trees to provide a bit of a buffer between the sidewalk and the building addition, where we have been approved some setback variances due to the limited space to accommodate this building addition. Jacob, maybe I'll let you take us through the planting plan.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? Just kind of, we're nearing our time limit here, so just if you don't mind kind of being brief and wrap up in the next minute or two, that'd be great.
Yeah, this is the last slide that needs talking.
Sweet, I'll just make it quick. So with a planting plan, there's always a balance of, what's required by the bylaws, and also creating visual interest while doing it in a way that needs reduced maintenance. So at the front end, we've got a few maple trees that are hardy and will turn a great color of red in the fall. In the back amenity area, there's 2 big coniferous trees that we're maintaining, and we're adding a couple more to sort of increase that sort of privacy buffer that we're looking for. On the south face of the building, there's 9 coniferous trees. We're required 15 trees, I think, for this development, and this is maybe one of the last places that we could put them. So we chose small coniferous trees that won't interfere with the building. And then on the southeast corner, there's a large elm tree that's just classic Edmonton tree planting that'll create nice shade along the sidewalk.
Thank you, Jacob. And then this was just a view from the northeast, looking towards that building addition with the existing building in the background. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll now move to the roundtable portion of the meeting. As we move to questions to the applicant, I'd like to remind the committee and the applicant to please attempt to keep your questions and responses concise and limit questions to 2 per committee member. We have additional questions. Please identify it at the end of your turn, and if time permitting, we will follow up after the remainder of the committee members have been at their opportunity to ask questions. With that, Jonathan, can you start us off?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for the presentation, Michael and team. Good to see you. Yeah, it's a fantastic project overall. I think it does a very nice job of kind of embracing the original design of the fire station with a few kind of tweaks and upgrades, and you know, the addition feels like it has kind of its own identity added onto the building, and I think it works well with the neighborhood. I guess my only question would be, I think traditionally with some of the, you know, the newer fire halls, they've been kind of like these like standalone kind of like forgotten buildings in the past, and there's a bit more of a trend now to kind of highlighting these civic buildings as sort of like landmarks or kind of like beacons in the community. So just speaking to that element, what would you say is that consideration for this project to kind of highlight itself as like a kind of like a landmark or beacon facility for a fire station in the neighborhood?
Good question, Jonathan. I like that. That was why we supported Edmonton Fire Rescue Services in looking for a splash of color or a pop through the red tones. The existing building was pretty muted. This brown brick and the existing corrugated cladding felt like it could be not easily seen. So we, I guess, trying to balance a cladding material that works with the brown brick, but also is expressive. We were just trying to balance those existing conditions. And I also think like just the nature of it being a fire station, there's a lot of activity, there's fire trucks, there's crews. I don't think it will be, I think this will help heighten the activity and be a beacon in the community.
Yeah, and I think the yeah, I do think that new addition with the kind of red tones of the fiber C, I think does a good job of that, especially because it's a you know, it's kind of perceived as a taller mass part of the building as well. So yeah, I think it works well in that regard. So yeah, great work. I have no other comments or questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Janice.
Hi, Michael and team. Thanks for your presentation. Similar to, I guess, Jonathan's comment, I do appreciate the red tone fiber C color palette. I do think it does add kind of that landmarking presence. I also love how those fiber C panels add another textural element that complements the existing brick. It's something that may not have been achieved if you had used a different durable material like metal panel. One small item that I'd like to put forward for consideration is looking at the overall landscape plan. The accessible parking stall is located adjacent to the curb and softscape area. I would recommend either moving it to the interior stall to allow for improved accessibility on both sides of a vehicle, or providing a clear area on both sides of the vehicle, because there appears to be ample room. Looking at the existing kind of overall site plan, it looks like there was parking adjacent kind of the other direction against the brick wall. I guess I'll leave it to my fellow committee members to comment on whether or not that empty area in front of that brick wall could potentially be better utilized for softscaping. So once again, thanks.
Thanks, Janice. And sorry, just to clarify, like the accessibility, so were you trying to get it closer to the entrance? Was that your?
I was just shifting it. So either A, putting the accessible stall to be the interior side stall,
I see.
just being you have the room on both sides of the vehicle, or even shifting them down and providing access on both sides of the vehicle. Typically, you don't have enough room to do that on a site, and you only provide the access on one side, but being you have ample room there, it'd be nice to give the accessible stall, you know, the room that it deserves. So.
Okay, yeah, fair comments.
Thank you, Janice. Mindy.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for your presentation. I have nothing novel to add. I echo Janice's comment about the stall, and no questions. I think it's a great project. Thanks.
Thanks, Mindy.
Thank you, Mindy. Neil.
Thank you. Very fond of it. No concerns. I love the strategy considering it's a bit of an adaptive reuse. So a bit of a question of curiosity, I guess, of Carl and the city staff. For an urban fire hall, what would it take for this city to adopt what Vancouver and other cities have done, combining it with other programs such as housing or library, my old favorite library, to take better use of this really fantastically located site? More curiosity.
I don't know if Carl wants to answer that, but it's something that we have looked at for upcoming projects, but it's just a challenge of getting different departments to line up with their needs. But it's definitely something that we've looked at: supported housing and library co-location.
Yeah, just curious. Thanks.
I did. I was gonna say I did talk to Autograph next door, but did have to be some sort of a land swap at this rate. And so obviously with this, you'd have to be almost taking down the building to be able to build something. And so with this, although it's a big renovation, it's way less than building a whole new building. So
and it's not it would definitely add a lot of program complexities. Thanks.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. Greg.
Hello, Michael and team. Thank you for the presentation. The building looks beautiful. I really appreciate how it looks. I only have a few questions, but no nagging issues. The one question I have is on that south side where you do have the barrier-free parking. I don't know whether it still exists. There was a tree to the south of the building, according to Google Maps there, but like the asphalt area that is, I guess, south of the fire truck or the apparatus bay and east of the storage area there, is there intended use for all that asphalt? Like it was there existing. Are they planning on parking there or moving their basketball hoop there? Or is there a program for that particular space?
So it is, parking is a premium that's being a downtown site. So there is often parking used in those locations. So it just gives the firefighters a bit of flexibility having that space open.
Okay, and so the tree is being removed? Or is it gone already? Or?
Genevieve, I might need to ask you that.
Yeah, I can answer that. So there was a tree assessment done during our schematic design phase. And the arborist recommended that tree be taken out. It has not yet been taken out. That will only happen after we have an approved development permit application as per our proposed planting plan.
Okay, perfect. The only other question I have, and this is not a sticking point by any means, but I was just wondering about like the window placement, or actually the window design strategy for the second floor and the red component of the building. You've got these gorgeous vertical indents with the darker fiber C panels on the east side of it. Is there any reason that approach wasn't taken, say, for that south? I think that's the captain's dorm, or on the west side? Yeah, right there.
So we purposely aligned the east windows. And when we were playing with different facade studies, we liked how we were combining them in these darker elements that we like the connection to the existing building and the dark tones there. I actually think we are adding one more window here just to unify that. When we added this one window from the captain's dorm onto the tarmac, we just personally liked it as a single punch. However, we have played with those dark bands. I think you can see a little bit on the north elevation where we're combining all of the dorm rooms into a single element.
All right.
Does that answer your question? I guess.
Yeah, it answers my question. So you've thought about it and you've made a decision.
Yeah,
So
like
we
like one window on its own on the south.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you for your presentation. That's it. No further comments.
Thanks,
Thank
Greg.
you, Greg. David, you're up.
And thanks, Michael, for your presentation. Just had a couple of questions. I know that we're just talking about Janice was talking about that east existing brick facade. For that, was there ever any consideration for maybe a piece of public art on that wall?
Like right here?
Yeah.
We didn't talk public art. A mural came up at one point, and it was decided that wasn't the best use of the project funds.
Okay.
We did look at signage there. So we have the logo and 22 on the addition here, and we really liked highlighting the new build, the new addition for that. And we were talking about parking earlier. There are often cars here. So we also didn't want to be like hiding something over there. Mitchell might have a bit more to add to this.
Yeah, I was just going to speak to that little space there from the previous comment too. Is obviously we don't have secured parking in the back of the facility, which is off a pretty busy, high traffic alley. So our members do like to take advantage of these stalls here, especially in the evening and during the day. Especially if we have our ladder truck being serviced, the ramp is quite short, so we can't actually do any ladder checks on that ramp. So they actually like to kind of tuck in there. Okay. So there's a lot of traffic, and it's usually blocks the view. It's pretty obscured in there.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, it's kind of unfortunate because that is sort of a remnant brick wall piece which has no articulation to it and is kind of bland. But
yeah.
The other question I had, any consideration for maybe extending seating, such as a seat wall, maybe it's incorporating some planters, west east along the main entrance, rather than using bollards to provide a bit of separation between the main entry and the apparatus bays?
That wasn't brought up. We did provide the bench. That's a standard in Edmonton Fire Rescue Services functional program. And in the reviews, it wasn't flagged that there was a need for more seating off the tarmac.
I think it might have, rather than just sort of going with that single bench, as I said, it just would have provided a bit more definition to the main entry. But then the other question I had was regarding the outdoor amenity space, which seems to be in a very consistently shady spot. And I know that you mentioned during the presentation that it's still sort of being worked out a little bit, which I appreciate. But I do wonder what sort of aspects of form and function are being considered for that, or were considered for that space, with respect to sort of the extent and type of hard surface area, or retaining existing trees and proposed planting additions, the size and extent of the shelter, maintaining sod. And the other strange thing was maintaining that existing shed, which really isn't, from what I could see, isn't really aesthetically inconsistent with sort of the architectural upgrades that are being done to the fire hall. So, like I'm just wondering, how form and function is being applied into the design of that space.
Well, like as I mentioned in the beginning, like the driver for this was the interior floor plan. Tied to that was definitely the recognition that a few key programs need connections to the outdoors, and that's the fitness, especially the fitness in the kitchen area. So that's the reason why these are the two programs facing this outdoor amenity area.
Correct.
And it really led to this footprint of available space for outdoor amenity area. We do
so like, I guess where I'm coming from is, like if you're extending the kitchen into a sort of an outdoor kitchen space and gathering space, like I'm not too sure how many people are in the building at one point in time, like what constitutes the number of people that would be in the fire hall at one point in time. But I'm just like, the shelter and the hard surface area seems undersized for creating opportunities for expansion of the kitchen and gathering, and that fitness area as well, and just the extent of grass and the shed. So I was just trying to get a better understanding of, if a real hard look as to the form and function of that space has been completed.
Eugene, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I just thought it might be helpful to clarify what the use of that space. I think it's deceiving maybe to call it an amenity space. It's more of a barbecue area and just a chance to get some fresh air. We're not really anticipating people lounging or hanging out there. It's just basically access to a barbecue, and we wanted to provide some privacy so that the residents nearby aren't looking down onto it. But yeah, that's really the function of it. It's not so much an amenity space.
And it's an improvement from what we have now, where we have to go from our kitchen through a hallway, through a mechanical room, through a door to barbecue and back around. So this is actually quite an improvement.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, David. Kevin.
Sure. Thank you for your presentation, Michael. It's nice to see you and the team. I don't think I have any comments that weren't already made. I think it's a lovely addition and obviously an important project for the city and for fire and rescue. So thanks for bringing it.
Thanks, Kevin, and nice to see you too.
Thank you. Raj.
No, I don't have any additional comments. I really appreciate the concept here of making use of the existing building and modernizing using existing footprint here. So great work. Thank you.
Thank you. That leaves myself. Overall, I have no major comments. I think it's a great material choices on the project. I will echo David's comment about the seat wall or kind of planter. I believe there was a small planter there before, if Google Street Maps is correct. That would just be a nice, softer kind of intervention than the pollards. I did have two kind of really nitpicky questions. The privacy fence, what are the details or like the construction of it?
So we've been looking at an Omega fence. So we are looking, budget is a concern, as is on every project these days. So we're trying to find a cost-effective fence that does have a high, that isn't easily seen through, so that there's some privacy for those ground level windows.
Okay. And then the other small little thing is the signage, I really do appreciate the syllabics included, and the Wikuntuin community name. Was there any thought to why it wasn't placed above the door to its current location?
Well, I think we're still playing with signage, to be completely honest. It was, in this instance, just a large, what we felt a kind of central area for the signage. It may be that a version of this, there's some over the app doors, also over the entrance door. I guess we don't want to scatter it all across the project too, but it's a good comment, and we'll take it into consideration.
Just a thought. I really do appreciate the kind of, let's call it the branding of the FRS logo and the 22 on the new edition. But overall, yeah, great. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you for bringing us before the Edmonton Design Committee. We will take a quick 2-minute break prior to deliberation. You're welcome to stay on the call for the little deliberation. We just ask that you do not participate. Does anyone want to kick us off while I open up our document here? Don't believe I heard any major concerns.
Yeah, I was about to say, Craig, I don't think I heard a lot of concerns. I think in general it looks pretty good. I don't know if I want to give everyone else a chance to chime in. Otherwise, I would make a motion. Awesome. Okay, I'll make a motion. Motion to approve.
Motion to support.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Did we want to mention? There we go. The only other thing I heard was the accessible parking stall location, if we wanted to mention that. That summarizes everything we talked about. Is everyone happy with the language? If so, For the motion of support as presented on the screen, in the same order of the question, Jonathan?
Support.
Janice?
Support.
Mindy?
Support.
Neil?
Support.
Greg?
Support.
David?
Support.
Kevin?
Support.
Raj?
Support.
And Craig, support. So thank you again for bringing this to the EDC. Good luck with your project.
Thank you so much, committee. Have a good
Have a
night.
good evening.
Thank you.
And we'll
Thanks.
wait.
Thank you.
We'll wait a few minutes for their next applicant to join us. Ashley, how are we on time?
We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule, and I just spoke with the next team. They're not able to join until 5:20, so I don't know if everyone wants to just take a little bit of a break.
Sounds good. Reconvene at 5:15. I see thumbs up. I don't think the thumbs up show anywhere other than our own meeting. So we'll reconvene at 5:15 with a quick roll call. Thanks.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's just run through the, let's do a roll call. Same order as the last round of questions. Jonathan?
Yep.
Janice?
Here.
Mindy?
I'm here.
Neil?
Here.
Greg?
Here.
David?
Here.
Kevin?
Here. Sorry.
Thanks, that's right. And Raj?
Yeah.
Thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and drop the order in a little early here. Hi, Brian. Hi, Anna.
Hey, folks.
Suspect you might be waiting for a couple more people. Seems like there's a bunch joining as we speak.
I think we're all here.
Awesome. We can get going. Welcome to the Edmonton Design Committee for the rezoning presentation of the Century Park project. We would like to remind you that this is a public meeting. We have all received and reviewed your submission package. Your team will have 10 minutes to present, and then we will go virtual roundtable of the committee members for questions. After the presentation, the committee will deliberate and respond to you in writing within 48 hours. I will now turn it over to you to introduce your team and project.
Great. Thanks so much, Craig. Well, good evening, everyone. Brian Murray, partner here with B&A Studios. Joining me is Jeff Dyer, our lead urban designer and partner at B&A. Anna Moyer, our senior planner at B&A. Tony Zane and, sorry, I think I've lost everyone here. Oh, sorry, there you are. Tony Zane and Shelley Boston with K&H Developments. Well, thanks everyone for having us. We are here now returning to you for a formal review for the rezoning of Century Park. Since our informal presentation, we have had to adapt our zoning strategy, and I'll let Anna lead us into that conversation in just a second here. But overall, the vision intent for Century Park has not changed, simply leveraging different zoning tools. Anna will provide an overview of the revised zoning approach, and then I'll ask Jeff to present the vision and master plan, including some of the further details on the public realm that was requested in our informal presentation. With that, Anna, I'll turn it over to you. You're muted, Anna. There you go.
There we go. Sorry. Split screen was not working for me. So yes, as Brian mentioned, we're here today for the formal review of the rezoning of Century Park. As he said, the application is consistent with the vision of Century Park as a high-density, mixed-use, transit-oriented development, while we've been exploring the most effective regulatory tools to implement this vision. There we go. So following the closure of Heritage Mall, this site was rezoned to DC2 in 2005 to accommodate a mix of uses. A subsequent rezoning to a new DC2 in 2013 implemented a new transit-oriented vision for the site, and at that time excluded the developed portions along 23rd Avenue and 109th Street. So this current rezoning looks to provide new zoning direction for the remaining undeveloped portions of this site while considering the legacy of DC2 zoning that has guided development to date and the community's existing vision for this site. So the Century Park site is located at the south terminus of the Valley LRT line, which is currently under construction to extend to Heritage Valley. This transit station provides LRT and bus connections to numerous education, health, and employment nodes within the city. This site is a critical location for high density that supports transit ridership and provides residents with enhanced mobility choices. Despite this, the development of the site has been slow to progress over the past 20 years since that initial DC2 zoning. The center of the site remains undeveloped, immediately adjacent to the transit center. The surrounding private roads are partially constructed, and this gap between the existing neighborhood and these high-density residential areas and the transit center itself is currently disrupting the experience of the site, the transit center, and the community as a whole. So in our informal presentation, we focused on the use of the city's new standard MU zone as a solution to the challenges faced by the current DC2 zoning. These challenges were that the DC2 creates a complicated development permit process due to the prescriptive nature of the zoning and the inability to apply for typical variances as needed. DC2s are intended to implement a very specific vision for a site, and with the changing market demands, changing standard building design regulations and city policies, and changing ownership, the DC2 is no longer the right fit. So MU zoning provided a solution as the intended building design regulations aligned with the intent for the site. However, the MU zone does not consider a large site in the interpretations of regulations for setbacks, FAR, and others. Further, administration expressed some concerns with the implementation of a private road network and a phased implementation process without zoning direction. So here we are, as a result of these conversations and city review, we've adjusted our zoning strategy and prepared the Century Park special area. The intent of the special area is to create new standard zones that apply only to this site. These standard zones align with the building design and site design regulations of the MU zone and allow for variances as needed in the development permit process, while considering the site-specific needs to accommodate a private road network and phased development. A special area provides a balance between the site-specific DC2 and a standard zone that best suits the phased implementation of Century Park. The Century Park special area includes the Century Park Transition Zone, which captures the zoning regulations of the current DC2 as it applies to the developed portions of the site. And it also includes the proposed Century Park Mixed Use Zone, which is applied to the undeveloped portions and provides site-specific direction for the implementation of the private road network and public realm, along with uses and building design regulations reflective of the MU zone. The intended density, built form, and land use has remained consistent throughout the zoning process and consistent with the overall vision for Century Park. But I will hand it over to Jeff to get more into the vision and master plan for the site.
Thanks, Anna. So since 2021, me and my team have been guiding the urban design of this site and the evolution of the plan. As you know, this has been in progress for quite a while. The blocks are more or less established, and it's always been our aim to create a vision that's connected to the community, of diversity of housing, and really, you know, while creating a density appropriate to a transit-oriented site with towers sensitively integrated into the site. We also recognize that the trade-off is to have a vibrant and exceptional public realm. And so really what we've been doing over the course of the past few months is really drilling down on the details and ensuring that we have that exceptional public space to complement the density. The conceptual site plan, we have 6.92 acres of developable area, approximately 2,500 units, which exceeds the minimum density of the current DC2. We've looked at 10 to 12 towers that are up to 75 meters in height, about 2,500,000, roughly 2.5 million square feet of residential, 130,000 square feet of commercial integrated in a mixed use form, and looking at an east-west pedestrian-oriented shopping street, which has been envisioned from the beginning. Again, we've been really honing in and you know, dialing in on the vision of how that works. The built form and massing, again, sensitively integrating the density, understanding that we need towers to reach the thresholds that we see are appropriate for the site, but looking at how to create an environment that is that has that exceptional public realm. Here you're seeing the commercial on the bottom, the residential towers, and then the podiums that are integrated with that. It is noted that we did do quite a bit of detail. These are challenging blocks in terms of their dimensions. So we had to really understand how the building cores worked with the underground parking, the entrances, how we could ensure that the main street wasn't interrupted by the servicing, and that we could have servicing that actually works with the commercial and the residential uses. So it was really a deep dive into how the buildings work and on each block. So here you're seeing the block by block analysis, where we really honed in on the details of these, how they work, how they match the zone, the land use districts, how they meet the requirements of the public realm, and how they integrate with the surrounding the surrounding uses. We paid attention to shadows. There was an effort to create what we believe is an exceptional public space amenity. It's not where it originally was located, near the transit station, though we're absolutely committed to creating an exceptional public realm there. But we found a triangle in the northeast sector that we were able to free up from sun and really study the shadows, and we're able to look at the details of how towers were positioned relative to each other and considering the sun angles at different times of the year. Public realm interface was extremely important. I know we had some comments from our previous application. We have always been committed to having a sufficient sidewalk. We wanted to give the buildings the ability to have an interface with the sidewalk, given that there is some grade on the site. We have some great examples that we've been working with, that we've worked off of, measuring, going to actual built places, measuring things, seeing what works, what doesn't work. The commercial frontages are really designed to support these vibrant, high activity environments. Our center street includes 3 meter pedestrian walkway, plus a furnishing zone, and then a variable setback for dealing with grade and the building interface. The furnishing zone will include boulevard trees, planters, benches, garbage receptacles, and other furnishings for the site. On residential street, we want to emphasize privacy, comfort, and a sense of home. Again, we worked through lots of precedents. What's working, what is not, and are we getting our dimensions in a place where they can that we can achieve these goals. Semi-private transitions from public to private space are utilized, such as porches, front yards, landscape buffers, quieter and greener than the central street, with narrow sidewalks and green boulevards, and a sidewalk and or shared path is provided on both sides of the street throughout. Public realm treatment, we were asked to look at this in more depth, and this is accommodated by an extensive document looking at the public realm. Sidewalks are sized to support the pedestrian volumes. Street trees and landscaping buffer the sidewalks from vehicle traffic. And the street furniture is contemplated to be of a contemporary aesthetic with a unified vision for the site as we move forward. Unique lighting and lampposts can be provided due to it being a private road network. Signage, including band and projecting signs, are to be consistent within this Century Park identity. And then we're looking for opportunities for public art throughout the site that could include sculptures or illuminated art installations. Here's one of the renderings. We did not focus on the architecture. We're leaving that to an architectural process that will be tied into the larger vision, but we wanted to illustrate a possible outcome for the public realm and the attention to the detail as we move forward on that. Here we are looking towards the west. This would be towards the train, towards the train station, with our potential amenity building that could have a food hall and other amenities in it, and creating a strong connection to the transit facilities to the west. Here's a nighttime view, really concentrating on the nightlife, creating vibrancy throughout the day and throughout the 4 seasons.
So I'll jump back in here. Thank you, Jeff. So looking at preliminary phasing for the site, development's going to start in the north and progress south, with our anticipated first phase 1 development permit to be submitted in spring 2026. So really moving into that first phase in the north portion of the site. Sub phases might be identified through future development permits as we go. So to kind of bring this all together, the proposed rezoning to a special area is a result of our continued collaboration with city administration to find the appropriate mechanism that can shape these remaining portions of Century Park in alignment with overall city policy direction and the vision for the site. We believe that this zoning achieves a balance of the current site-specific DC2 direction that gives assurance to city administration and the community, while also bringing in the more generalized MU development regulations that shape the development of each block with alignment with the city's overall regulations. Future buildings will be brought to EDC for review through the development permit process to confirm alignment with this zoning and city policies as well. So with that, thank you all for your time, and our team is available if you have any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. We will now move to the roundtable portion of the meeting. As we move to questions to the applicant, I'd like to remind the committee and the applicant to please attempt to keep questions and responses concise and limit questions to 2 per committee member. If you want more questions, let me know at the end of your time, and time permitting, we will follow up after the remainder of the committee members have had their chance. With that, Neil, can you kick us off?
Thank you. I think you know where I'm going. So love some of the detail you've added to the public realm. I love the furniture strategy. Looks really good. It's got some warmth. I still say it's a woefully inadequate public realm. The sidewalks are, while more generous, have no space for anything between shops and sidewalk. So no space for patio, no space for display. And I think that's really critical, right? If we're going to have a pedestrian-oriented public realm, you need that kind of opportunity. I remember I was visiting a very auto-oriented complex in Richmond, BC, and I thought it had a much richer public realm than this one. And I was like, I was thinking back to Century Park. And Station Square in Burnaby might be the worst example of that kind of public realm that we need to make happen. They've done some really nice other work, actually, I'd say, in the Burnaby area. So that's kind of my big one. It's like what's happening between the sidewalk and the buildings, and I guess overall, where where does for this much density, where does public life take place other than, I guess, walking up and down a very auto-oriented center street?
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Appreciate the question. And you'll be pleased to note that our team did tour through Burnaby and Surrey and Coquitlam and many other places as we led up to the design work. I'll note that, yes, you're right. We have expanded the sidewalks. Certainly our center street or our main street is critical to us. From a zoning regulation standpoint, we've put in minimum and maximum setbacks. So we are allowing ourselves to have the flexibility to put in a patio where that opportunity aligns at the time of building. You probably saw phase 2 and 3 a couple years down the road. So we're not pretending we have 100% of the answers today, but we've given ourselves the flexibility to achieve that. Absolutely. And through the work that Jeff has illustrated, we absolutely want to see patios. We absolutely want to see that life on the street, not just on the sidewalks. When it comes to where we live, of course, we have included a public amenity on the site. And I always reminded by context, there is a substantial open space neighborhood level park just east of our site. And so not only do we have open space amenities on site, we have much more surrounding us as a community.
I would just add briefly that Neil, I appreciate your comments. You know, we looked at fixing the public realm, so now you have the 3 meters clear walkway. Generally, when we work in other places, ensuring that you have a 2 meter walkway that can then have other things happening against it. And so that extra meter does allow in the public right of way some other things. You have the furnishing zone, so we're, you know, altogether we're north of 4 meters, which is, you know, there's fantastic sidewalks all over all over the world that are like that. Like Paris, most of the sidewalks are not larger than that. But I know this is a Paris, but I will say the other thing that we have here is we have grade. And the way we're going to take up some of that grade is we're going to, we are anticipating undercrops with the buildings. Those undercrops will be able to have the patios. And as you move down the street and you look for level places for the patios, it's a natural way to expand the public realm within the individual site. So you have the patios that are brought into the architectural program, and then we are still guaranteeing a good public realm regardless of what programming happens in the buildings.
So I do appreciate that greater depth. I think that's going to give you a lot of flexibility. I think they'll give future tenants a lot of flexibility, and it's really critical to make happen. I'd say, and I'm with you, right? We have all sorts of examples all over the place where a limited sidewalk works great urbanistically, but it's still pretty wide right away because of the diagonal parking. And so I know you're getting pushback on the parking. What are the sticky points that won't keep the diagonal in, I guess is the way of saying it.
I would be sensitive. Like, we're really looking at making a viable Main Street environment. This is still, you know, largely we're on a suburban site. People are like, we're hoping that people will drive there, and we're trying to create an adequate first flush of parking. So that's probably 1 space per 1,000. That we're able to handle with angled parallel. When you're done with the bump outs, it's just for the kind of businesses we want to move into, it becomes inadequate. So you know, we really had to do a deep dive. I'm with you. I'd prefer parallel parking. You can see the shops better. But when we really looked at the viability of those shops, we want this place to be vibrant and active, and there's a trade-off there. So I think that you'll find that it works well, and when it's really working well, we're going to be able to shut down that street. And
yeah, that's sort of my take. Was like, if you make the block that's closer to the station.
I'm hoping Friday and Saturday night they can close that parking down and open that whole thing up.
I think that would really help. And then if you are a tenant that really needs that convenience parking, you're 1 block away. Like, why pay a premium to be that close to the transit station if you need that kind of convenience parking and you have a little more? So I'm happy to hear that there's a good thinking that's going into the phasing. So on that note, I've talked a lot. I'm going to pass it on to my good friend Greg.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Yeah, to you, Greg.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. Looks like an excellent opportunity to densify that area around the excellent transit station area. I only have a few questions. It appears in some of the diagrams that the commercial area is restricted to primarily the central lane. Is there any reason why it's less so on 28th Avenue and 26th Avenue around Block I and Block A?
Yeah, I'll maybe start and then Jeff, feel free to jump in. But ultimately, the importance of concentration of activity on that center street or that main street is really important to ensure that we have that critical mass. We did want to create more residential environments, and understanding that through the previous developer, there is some commercial fronting opportunities on their properties. We really had to create an environment where we're able to house more of that residential population and create a desirable street frontage. As far as the opportunity goes, Anna, maybe you can touch in on the zoning opportunity, because of course what we've illustrated, the zoning provides additional flexibility.
Yeah, on that, absolutely. There is flexibility that if additional commercial is warranted as development occurs, there's nothing limiting within the zoning saying that you can't have additional commercial on those other sites. This is just reflective, as Jeff can kind of dig into more, of what the commercial demand is that was anticipated.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just add briefly that there's commercial and then there's a retail entertainment district. And I think our focus has been on that sort of retail entertainment district, building in the vibrancy. Additional commercial is absolutely possible as you wrap corners and go down streets. We're hoping that the building programs are putting in common space for the buildings, lobbies, that sort of thing that can create additional interface with those streets. But it's by no means to limit that. We are often as planners and urban designers, we get caught with too much retail. What we're trying to do here is say this is really where we need it to happen, but we also want to see it, wrap the corners and go down the street if that's possible. So we're going to let the market maybe guide us on that, but we're leaving that possibility to happen. Okay. And are hopeful that that's the outcome.
My second question is on about Block D, where it proposes a commercial zoning there as well too. The pedway, is that going to be built or suggested that it could be built?
So it is tied into our development program, and we are currently working with, in fact, we'll be meeting with Transit later this week to kind of sort out a couple more of their questions. But ultimately, we have created this pedway connection that will form part of that development in our final phase, ultimately connecting and working in collaboration with City Transit to tie it directly to the LRT station.
And are there any expected ground level connections to that transit station?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So not only will it act as a community hub, Block D is intended to be really kind of a focal point and a community gathering place. We're envisioning food hall, a variety of things can go in there, but ultimately it's meant to be this kind of this connection, this nexus of transit and people and movement. So Jeff, I don't know if you want to.
It also, we imagine the ground floor of that to be, very permeable, but also with a walkway that also serves a dual purpose of covering the walkway when things are rainy or snowy, and creating some shade when it's hot, as your transition from the transit area into our vibrant main street. So it's kind of a transition area, but there's going to be a lot of attention to detail to ensure that. Look, I mean, the transit facility is walking traffic, and walking traffic is part of the market that's going to help support those businesses. And we want to make every effort to make sure that those two things are connected. And hidden retail is soon to be out of business retail. So we are very interested in making sure that those things are connected.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Jonathan, you're next.
Thank you for your presentation. I was here for the previous presentation, so it's good to see this kind of develop using this this new zone that isn't a DC. So that's interesting. I have a bit of a question around the design regulations in each of the CPMU and CP, is it T or yeah, CPT zone. So these two areas, so I found like the building design regulations differ quite a bit. So I guess the first question, I'm curious, but I'm going to get really specific here. So CPMU section 5, 5.2. So this is where it's talking about how, classic description of how the facade must be articulated using 2 or more design techniques, massing, blank walls, etc. But then there's this exclusion where it says building walls facing and built to a shared lot line to establish a continuous street wall with an abutting site, or the second one, facades of a tower above a podium. And so I guess I'm curious why there's an exclusion specifically to facades of a tower above a podium when, this kind of district is so high exposure and that there aren't really many buildings around it that are that tall, especially to the west and to the south. Why would we not want to ensure that there are some considerations for the building design articulation for the tower portion above the podium?
I can jump in here, Brian. Yeah. So I guess first off, from a general perspective, the reason that the 2 zones are so different is that CPT, the transition zone, is really just capturing the existing regulations of the current DC2, which is why it only applies to those sites that have already been developed or already have existing development permits in place with the current DC2. So it's really just bringing those over and updating the language to be consistent. CPMU, all of the building design regulations that are included have been brought over directly from the MU zone. So including that exclusion, that is brought directly from the MU zone, except the only things that we've changed slightly is some of the step back regulations in anticipation, and administration is looking at making those changes to the MU standard zone. So we've just kind of gotten ahead of how they were approaching that. So I don't have a specific answer to that exclusion as much as it's more so from an overall approach. We are looking to align with the design regulations of the MU zone based on what we've kind of been presenting since we started this project.
Okay, yeah, I think there's, given that it is this kind of special zone and the fact that there is that opportunity to, customize it, I think that could be an opportunity considering there is the potential for kind of multiple towers in one area and where it's highly exposed. I think, it could be an opportunity to kind of really, strive for, design excellence in an area that'll be highly visible, considering it's not in a downtown, rather than just kind of take the text from the standard kind of MU zone. But yeah, that's my only comment specific to like the design regulations. And I guess just the other comment I had was just around this center street. So D is this kind of idea of this like food hall type building, block D, and block G, that's the existing tower. Is that correct? Okay, so so the center street kind of runs from that existing tower on one end, and then this kind of food hall feature amenity type building on the other end. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I know my comment I think I made from the previous was the last time you were here was around kind of like step backs for towers, and I guess that's kind of my theme is around the how much can we regulate around the tower design, because I think towers in kind of these mixed use districts can get kind of out of control simply because they aren't downtown, so there's less. I feel like there's less eyes on it, and they kind of just get designed out of however people feel. And yeah, there might be opportunities to incorporate a little bit more consideration on those different regulations on design strategies, articulation strategies, and things like that, especially in this district where there might be more tall buildings. But that's my only comment from that kind of one section there. Otherwise, it's looking good and excited to see this progress.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan. Janice.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Though I think Jeff may have already addressed my question when responding to Neil, can you confirm the intent of other regulations, item 6.11 within the CPMU text, which talks about outdoor display areas and public space being located within the setback abutting a street, and whether or not the minimum sidewalk widths will be maintained, or what the minimum sidewalk widths that are being maintained?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Janice. The minimum sidewalk widths, particularly on Main Street, the 3 meters, is meant to be maintained. It will not be infringed upon. The additional setback, as well as any additional, so the minimum setback as well as any additional setback, is where we'd like to see some of those opportunities for patio spaces, or some of that zone that would be fronting onto the buildings.
Okay, so you say the intended use of display areas and public space is more so for patio space, those like spillout places type?
If there is a patio, or if there's just a regular retail frontage, we would leverage that through the setback. But through our discussions with transit and the planning group for this area, we've really kind of come together on ensuring that we have that 3-meter protected thoroughfare for pedestrians.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
You bet.
Thank you, Janice. Kevin.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I'm going to hone in on Center Street as well. I don't believe I've seen this project before. I think I missed the meeting when you were here for an informal, so apologies if I'm rehashing things that were previously discussed. But you just mentioned that the 3 meters will be an unobstructed pedestrian through zone on the sidewalks. The cross section shows a setback only on one side of the Center Street, if I'm seeing that correctly.
Anna, do you want to jump in here?
Yes.
So
Yep.
I'm just
So
curious.
the minimum setback on Center Street is 0, with the opportunity that we can pull buildings back to create those kind of public spaces and enhance the interface. But we also have the opportunity to bring things like residential lobbies right up to the edge of that sidewalk.
Yeah, what I'm seeing on Center Street is like counter to what I'm seeing happen in like almost every streetscape initiative that I've come across in recent memory, in that the right-of-way is being made wider than potentially is required, giving up developable land to facilitate angle parking. And in a lot of municipalities that I've had experience in, angle parking is being removed in favor of parallel parking in order to give space to the public realm for things like patios and activation to spill out into public realm and not require that use to happen in a setback. With 6 meter wide angle parking stalls, you have a total of, like close to 7 meters that could be given back to the public realm if you went to angle parking. And I'm just so curious that we're still in a place where parking needs to be at the front door of the business in order for it to be successful. Like, did the team look at reallocating on-street parking elsewhere in the plan area to give Center Street a truly pedestrian presence? Because I hear it being said that it's a pedestrian street, but the designers are indicating that, it's a hybrid maybe, and that you've given up developable space in favor of parking and public realm amenities. So I guess, did you look at reallocating surface or street parking elsewhere in the plan area, and even using angle parking on other streets to free up public realm space on Center Street?
We have not looked at angled parking on other streets, but we will have an opportunity to include additional below grade parking, of course, working within the city's parking requirements under the zoning bylaw. But as Jeff had mentioned previously, through our work with many REITs, many retailers, we're well aware of the best way to get a vibrant retail shopping street is to have adequate convenience parking. And I know that sometimes that is at odds with what we talk about as a walkable and human scaled street. We agree that the street is wide. It was part negotiation with the city staff to give not only the correct amount of tree planting zone and furnishing zone, but to also give a clear throughfare of 3 meters for pedestrians, while we're able to protect what we believe will make a thriving retail environment. And that's just through our past experience, Kevin, with, like I said, a multitude of clients across Western Canada. That's the trade-off we've made. If in the future, everything's going well and there's an opportunity to reduce that, we can always look at that. But as it stands, and the work that we've put in with our retail experts, global retail strategies out of Vancouver, working with our clients and the architecture team and design team, this is where we've arrived at.
Okay. Have you looked at your travel lane widths and whether they, has transportation reviewed and said they're okay for backing out of angle parking stalls into 3 meter wide travel lanes?
Yes.
Yep.
Lovely. Okay. Yeah, I think, like you said, there is a trade-off here. I think, a hybrid street maybe, but I think it's an opportunity missed from a public realm improvement perspective. And again, that's what the committee is here to look at is the public realm and the urban design. And, there are, as much as there are examples of plentiful parking being a big driver for commercial retail success, there's the opposite, the corollary is there too. That, streets and places are successful when there is sufficient parking, but maybe not right at the front door.
I think part of the benefit, Kevin, and I really appreciate what you're saying, because, we work across a variety of jurisdictions, and depending on the locality and all those elements, sometimes it's just right. My hope is that, 20, 30 years in operation, this place is so successful that we're naturally pushing against the parking and we're reclaiming more space. But at this time, like I said, this is the trade-off that we've made, and in favor of what we believe is needed to get this started right. Perhaps down the road that changes.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I'll say to that is retrofitting once you have trees in place and you've invested in tree infrastructure, and the location of your tree line defines so much of what happens in the street that to say you're going to retrofit down the road and lose the parking spaces, optimistic maybe, but I'll leave it at that and pass along to my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Raj, your turn.
Yeah, hi. I'm just curious, in your submittal package, it talks about shared parking areas that serve both commercial visitors and potentially transit users. Can you explain what that means? Are you talking about having like a park and ride type of an arrangement here?
No, not at all. Great question, though. So we have envisioned parking structures that would allow for people to be able to visit the site, or for visitors to the various residential units. Nothing is concrete. It was simply an idea. We've had this in mind for some time, but it's really going to be market demand. All of the parking, for the most part, other than of course the surface parking at the street level, is underground.
Okay. Yeah, I think we kind of talked enough, so I'm not going to harp on the same thing, but I think there's a real opportunity here to make the commercial street a truly pedestrian and consolidating, and there could be an opportunity for even, more like usage for transit people parking too. So I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Raj.
Thank you, David. Your turn.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for your presentation. Craig, I do have a number of questions to ask, so I'll ask as many as I can, and then you can cut me off. Sure. So Brian, like, I really appreciate all of the additional work since the informal that you guys have done with regards to the public realm and sort of defining that. In going through the package, I still have some concern that it hasn't been really clearly illustrated to me, like with respect to sort of the variations in built form development, the structure and hierarchy of your corridors or roadway system, and sort of the public realm and amenity space intent for each built form variation and hierarchy of corridors. So here are my questions. So first of all, there seems to be a lot of commercial frontage shown on the plan. So what if, and I'm sure there's been lots of calculations done on sort of committing to that much commercial frontage, but what happens if that commercial frontage doesn't transpire? Has there been a sort of level of focus as to where commercial frontage should be focused versus pulling back on some of that commercial focus? Also, like, are there some variations in that commercial frontage which haven't been sort of represented in the cross sections or in some of the public realm options? So that was one of the major things I was trying to sort out with regards to the commercial area. With regards to the residential frontages, are these strictly residential frontages? Like, were there any variations in potential work, live sort of opportunities considered as part of those residential blocks? Maybe I'll stop there. Before I get on to the other 32 questions I have. No, one can
Send
a
me
few
a
questions.
No, you bet. So on the commercial side, through our retail study, the site can actually accommodate quite a bit more. We really wanted to have a focused and a concentrated center street. Try not to say main street because I know this parking idea is throwing everyone off. But it is intended to have this concentration. In the diagrams that you're referring to or reflecting on, we are showing, as Jeff had mentioned, it bands around the building. There might be an extension. How far that goes, though, David, we don't know. So we're really kind of scaling back. We've all seen retail studies come and say, oh, you can capture the entire market. You're going to be the next big thing. Don't believe it. Quite frankly, we've not seen a lot of that come to fruition. So we're really focusing our efforts on the main street. When it comes to the hierarchy, our hierarchy of our main street is our retail shopping high pedestrian zone. That's why we have the extra wide sidewalks. Yes, we're accommodating the additional parallel parking or angled parking, but the idea is that this is your main street. The streets that flank our center street are really intended to be more of that residential focus. With the mixed use zone now factored into this new special area zone, there's always an opportunity to have the market dictate what might go there. But the way that we've designed the pedestrian or the cross sections, and depending on if it has a bike lane or no bike lane, is the intent that it could have a residential frontage. So your front stoops, the idea that you could have that front door access, but it is a part of a larger development. So the idea is that it has a bit more of a residential feel. It's kind of your quieter streets. That's the intent. There's cross sections. We've done our best to kind of keep the cross sections flexible, not nuanced. The next iteration of the zoning that we'll be talking to the city about will have a bit more clarity on the specifics of each street and the regulations at the request of transportation.
And will some of these residential frontages have live work opportunities? So, ground floor, office space,
Yeah.
upper floor.
All of that is possible, David. It's
Okay.
allowable in the zone.
Yeah. So as I said, I really appreciate some of the additional work that you did in addressing some of the comments that came out of the informal. I'm, as I said, it would have been nice to see maybe a bit of a deeper dive as to addressing some of those variations as it relates to, the public realm and those roadway cross sections and so on and so forth, so that we get a better understanding of how those variations are going to be addressed as the development progresses, right? And things change and so on and so forth. Instead of doing 1A, we're now going to pull 1C out of our pocket, and that's how we're going to apply it. So as I said, it would be nice to take a bit of a deeper dive on those variations. And also with regards to the public realm treatment, I had talked about what sort of study has been done with regards to sort of establishing an essence or a character or quality for Century Park and all of this development. And what's being presented is something that's very standardized.
Yes.
Which that's fine, but it would be nice to see, once again, diving into those variations in public realm and built form, how that gets adjusted or changes, and to have a better understanding of those the components that have been selected and how they meet or reflect sort of that essence and character for the development.
Yeah.
And I know that maybe some of that will, along with the architecture of all of these buildings, may progress and change a little over time. So the other item, I know that someone had asked about amenity space, and there was comment about the large park space that's very close to this development. Amenity spaces have been sort of identified within sort of the commercial realm or commercial frontages, but was there any consideration for smaller sort of amenity spaces being brought into those residential areas as well?
Yeah, we do have included in our master plan an area that would be more for the residential use. We're contemplating a small dog park and shared landscaped area. And then through the design of each building, there's going to be an opportunity to push and pull the building elements and be able to create more plaza spaces.
Okay.
So that's certainly the intent. Just before I lose it, coming back to one of your earlier comments regarding sort of the architectural theming or the style, the architects that have been brought on are going through that exercise. And so I think when you see at EDC the first development permit that comes forward later or next year, you'll start to see those elements start to get solidified and codified through that first building program. And we're happy to work with the architect to bring forward even just to talk about what that looks like within the first.
Okay, thanks. Look forward to seeing the first development permit submitted on this. That is a really important project. And it's there haven't been too many of this larger scale of infill and development in quite a while. So look forward to seeing the first development permit submission. Thanks.
Many more chances to talk about it, so we're excited to come back.
Thanks, David. Mindy.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for your presentation. I have nothing novel to add at this point. It's nice to see the improvements since the informal. I'm in agreement with others in fine-tuning some elements, but no questions for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Mindy.
Thank you, Mindy. That leaves me. I just wanted to clarify something around the CPT zone, and I ask only because when I'm looking at the CPT item 4.7 and 4.8 on page 75, I believe, talks about the minimum podium height being 6 meters and the maximum podium height being 25 meters. That seemed relatively high, and I just kind of trying to understand why a podium would be that height. And I thought I heard a tower maximum of 75 meters, so a third of the tower. That kind of not jiving with me. And kind of to that next point, kind of a setback of 2.5 meters at 25 meters seems rather insignificant. And then second part of my question is kind of, I wasn't able to find that language or similar language to that extent in the CPMU section. Am I missing something?
Yes, so I can dive in and answer this. On the CPT zone, so that is really essentially what that zone is we're leaving what was the DC2 and what applied to the developed portions of the site. So the areas that it's applying to is either it's been developed or there's already development permit that has been applied for that was applied under the DC2. So the intent of that zoning is really to just maintain the existing development rights for the other landowner and those existing developments without really kind of digging in and changing any of the things that they were built under. Within the CPMU zone, because it is structured in a similar way to the MU zone and the city's kind of standard approach now, it doesn't have that exact same language about like the exact tower podium that way that we used to word it in DCs. For the CPMU zone, what we landed on in discussions with administration is really a priority on having a 16-meter street wall. So that is where we kind of focus the step back requirements, which is I can kind of flag it for you. Table 4.4 of the CPMU zone gets into having minimum setbacks for portions of the development greater than 16 meters in height. So just making sure that there is anywhere where we're bringing the below 16 meters towards the street, we are ensuring that we're pulling the tower back from that. And it's that in combination with tower floor plate restrictions and those other kind of pieces that eventually sculpt the building under the MU standard approach.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting, as typically us architects do, focused on the images, because certainly the podium did feel kind of at an appropriate scale in some of those massing models. But yeah, okay. That's all that I have. There's the only question that I had. So thank you for your presentation. Once again, we thank you for bringing this before the Edmonton Design Committee. We'll take about a 2-minute quick break before deliberating. You're welcome to stay on for the deliberation portion of the meeting. We just ask that you do not participate. And like I said, we'll get you something in writing within 48 hours.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Does anyone want to kick us off? I think we heard a lot around the Center Street and the angled parking and additional public realm space.
I guess the only thing that jumps out at me is if a business wants to have a patio directly adjacent to their doorway and their frontage, they need to do so in a setback. There isn't the opportunity to, the way I understood it being described, there isn't an opportunity to have a patio in what we would call the right of way or the public realm. And that to me seems problematic, that there is no public realm space available for business frontage to spill out into.
But
Yeah,
Kevin,
Kevin.
isn't that, I would say, a preferred location for it is directly connected to the business. I tend to think patios that work best aren't in the parking spots.
Yeah, totally. I'm agreeing with you. I just requiring the building to have a setback every space you want a patio. I don't know if that's ideal or necessary when you've provided so much space in the right of way to vehicular uses.
Yeah, I think that's the issue to me, is the cross section is right. And if you I don't want to say lose that space, I think that would be wonderful to have activation, whether it's patio or other uses. It's just there's not a lot happening in the public realm, whether it's Center Street or the secondary spaces throughout. And I really appreciate David's typing comment about, you have such a large project. It's a lot of density, doesn't have a lot of complexity. And I think that's being seen in the public realm.
Janice, you had something?
Oh yeah, no, I guess that's what I was trying to get at by my question and clarifying that those uses were only in the setback areas. And like I think of White Ave right now, and how the patios that are in the public spaces either are constricting the sidewalk, or like Neil just said, they're in parking spaces. They don't feel as inclusive as what they should be. Yeah.
I guess the only way my concerns are addressed if angle parking is replaced with parallel parking and the space recovered is given to a frontage zone in front of the buildings that facilitates patios and display tables and sandwich board signage and things like that.
Yeah, because I don't see, Kevin, if they build it the way that it's currently standing, if in the future they were going to, renovate, etc. I don't see that happening. I see them either stealing sidewalk space in order to create those spaces and opportunities, and reducing the sidewalk down to like a minimum of 1.2, something like that, versus actually going through the process of removing parking and reclaiming it back.
Yeah, because if you're reclaiming it in the future, you're kind of setting it up for that patio space to be disconnected from the building.
Yeah,
right?
which
rather than having, who said it, a frontage zone.
Yeah.
It also seems opposite to how, when we start to lay out a site, we look at the pocket and like, what are my setbacks, right? We just kind of start with that box before, our maximum box for maximum height before we start carving away at it. And how often do we carve away from it?
So the businesses might be commercially viable with on-street parking the way it is, with plentiful on-street parking. But unless there's a setback, they won't contribute to the public life of the street, because other than people going in and out of the doors, but with a lack of inside-outside kind of interface, patios and the like, that's not going to happen. And if I would want to build to the 0 lot line. They mentioned grade changes needed to be accommodated, but I think relying on a setback on podiums of this size, I don't know, just seemed problematic.
So I'm used to that strategy, I say myself, in past positions that we've generally tried to, if anything, increase the setback on very pedestrian oriented places, just to give that more flexibility and pull the building back a little, because you're getting sidewalk for it. But you're right, in this case, you're getting sidewalk and more street.
And the right of way, the scale and proportions of the space between the building frontages, the podiums, is going to get so significant, so wide. Like, will it have those kind of space shaping qualities that it needs? I don't know. I looked at the architecture in the.
But even that, where, what is it, the half circle building closest to the station, I forget the block.
Block D, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I guess, some urban market. It has nothing, like, it's got no space to spill out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, as an opportunity to create a really great public space, I think that one's a real missed one. It's all interior. I just don't think the commercial is going to be that successful. It's not a great. It lacks place.
Unless parking is the magic.
Yeah, I don't, and which I'm like, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
I just can't. That goes against everything we're going. The trends generally, it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Place attracts.
But that's what this Center Street is hinging on, because it's traded off other benefits and amenities, placemaking opportunities in order to provide that front door parking, which is seen as being the driver to commercial success, retail success.
And 1 or 2 blocks away is acres of parking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Extremely auto oriented, massive amount of commercial.
Yeah.
So this has to, So I'm sensitive to the argument. I think there's a solidity, but I think it undermines the project, and this is a lot of density, right? So I'm like, I do think it needs a bit more public. It needs more public realm in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's got a lot of density and just the location adjacent to the LRT. For the people who aren't auto-oriented within Edmonton, to be able to hop on the LRT and get to, what potentially could be a very vibrant street to experience as a pedestrian, similar to the atmosphere in other locations in Edmonton. I don't know. It just seems like a huge missed opportunity, but I think it's all kind of summed up in what David's silently been working on in the background. So.
David's been doing a great job, as always.
I mean, I could be misremembering this, but it almost with its connection to the LRT station and what block D could be, it almost wants to be like a Stevens Ave in Calgary, but and this may be the part I'm misremembering. Was Stevens Ave in Calgary not always pedestrian focused? It had a very minimal kind of traffic component with very limited parking. I seem to remember that, and that's
I can't go all the way back, but I am getting reasonably old. So when I was a kid, Stephen Ave was totally pedestrian, right? It was part of that whole 1970s, 80s ped mall thing. It was not working. So they introduced auto access, at least through sometimes a day. That also did not work. Ultimately, what worked was patios, was liveliness, was happy hour, was people. People attract people. Parking does not attract people. So that's my recollection as a kid from Calgary. Stephen Avenue kind of struggled for a while until it actually gave up on the sort of auto convenience orientation and went more on fun and placemaking. Also, I totally forgot. There's like, it says shared use pathways. There's not a lot of non-auto oriented mobility space in this project, I think. Oh man, there's so much parking.
Well, and it's one of those ones, Neil, that like this place has been vacant for so long that, you know, fully support the density and the development and moving it forward. But yeah.
But then I'm like, we have so much of this in Edmonton with just some big random pieces of density.
No, David's been quiet in the background typing, but I don't know if he has any thoughts.
I would just like to see some further variations, because as I said, like, you know, a lot of people are commenting on the amount of commercial and how that's being applied and so on and so forth. Like, I know it would, in the plan, it would be just nice to see all of the variations that may or may not occur, and how, those corridors and the public realm and amenity space are adjusted to establish some of those aspects of essence and character and sense of place for the development. And it's kind of too bad. I don't get a sense that's where it started, was to sort of try and define the essence and character of this space and how it fits within the surrounding context and how it relates to, how the overall development will progress and create, that sort of unique environment. So yeah, I don't know. It just wouldn't be nice to see a little bit more variation. And I do agree with, the Center Street and the parking. I just don't understand where that's coming from. And these are the sort of things that, especially in many smaller Alberta towns, we're trying to adjust, and it's very difficult. And I think Kevin sort of indicated that, once it's done, it's done. There's no ability to come back and remove that parking and fix, this huge void that you've sort of created between building faces. So anyway, that's all I have to add.
Anyone else that we haven't heard from wants to say something? Are we leaning towards a motion? I'll make a motion of support.
I'll second that, Craig.
Yeah, and I'm not too sure if we want to add anything to this motion. For sure, in my opinion, when the first phase of development comes forward to EDC, like I would hope, if I'm around, I would hope that some of these things have been refined and better defined with regards to a little bit more in-depth assessment of sort of the development variations. So
David, when you talk about development variations, are you talking about like different development scenarios that might occur where what's currently
Correct.
envisaged as commercial might end up being residential frontage or vice versa?
or live work frontage.
Yeah.
So like each one of those variations in built form and development
Indicates a different street type.
It does, and I don't see that within what's been put together to date. Like I would have rather seen sort of this sort of blank approach to the whole thing, and a more of a focus on those variations of those cross-sectional variations and plan section variations, so that we could get a better understanding of how those districts would be sort of established, like because it should be a lot different from a purely residential street versus that Main Street commercial, or I've listed a few there and you can add to them, but as I said, like there should be a different character and approach established for each one of those types of variations.
And especially considering the scale of the development, like these are multiple blocks.
Mm-hmm.
I agree strongly with you.
Yeah, personally, I would have been fine just looking at a figure block plan showing, the blocks and the
different
and
frontage types and different strategies,
and then just all of the different variations in built form. It's so hard these days to dictate and control how development grows and responds to the marketplace, right? But what you can do is be able to apply a standard format once you've defined a specific sort of district and type of built form and development that you're going to go for. So I would have much rather seen sort of those variations than some of the other things that were in the presentation. So anyway.
The only other comment I'm kind of considering at this point is talked about some outdoor space for Block D, some amenity space.
Yeah, I don't know where to go.
I'm just struggling on how to write that comment. on mute. Are we ready to put it to a vote?
Sure.
I don't want to cut it off early. It just
rock and roll.
Okay. Let's give me 1 sec here. For the motion of support as presented on the screen, Neil.
Non-support. No.
Greg.
Support.
Jonathan.
Support.
Janice.
Support.
Kevin.
Support.
Raj.
Support.
David.
Support.
Mindy.
Support.
Craig's support. But I saw Brian on. Thanks again, Brian, for bringing this to EDC. Next item on the agenda is D, other business. Do we have any other business, Ashley?
No, we don't.
Item E, upcoming applications, conflicts, and regrets. Do we have any regrets for the next meeting on December 2nd?
I'm a regret. I'll probably be a regret.
Take a double take there. When I saw December 2nd, I thought for a minute I had the wrong date.
No, that's, I know.
Anyone else?
Greg, I'm a tentative, just based on my schedule of when my flights may be. So I'm 50-50 at this point.
Okay. And then I guess we don't know if we have any conflicts until we get the applications come through Friday. With that, we can move to adjournment. We'll adjourn this meeting at 6:38 p.m. with the next scheduled meeting on Tuesday, December 2nd at 4 p.m. Thank you all.
Sounds
Good
good.
night,
Thanks.
everybody.
Have a good night.
I think so.